You're listening to Deliberate Living, a podcast that inspires, empowers, and encourages listeners to live life more authentically. My name is Holly Priestley, and I'm a full-time nomad who has been living in my 1997 Ford van for more than a year. I travel the United States with my dog, learning how to live with more authenticity. I explore different ways people choose to ditch the prescribed life we've all been sold and live on their terms, finding freedom and happiness however they choose. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Deliberate Living podcast. I am your host, Holly Priestley, and this week I have with me my good friend, Amber.
Hello!
And she has been living in her van for just over a year now. She left her, regular old life that we were all trying to live about a year ago and hit the road with her dog and her big green van and on the side of the road with the help of complete strangers, and has been living the hippie dream ever since, I think, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to give us a little bit of background for the people who don't know you and just kind of talk about how you got to where you are.
Totally. So my name is Amber. I am originally from Mankato, Minnesota, which is a pretty small town. It's a college town, and the college pretty much takes up like a third of the population. Yeah, I kind of grew up, we have a lot of lakes and rivers around my hometown, so I've always been outdoors. I've always been at the lakes, at the rivers, going on hikes. When I was, right after high school, I graduated high school when I was 17, and I went to college for like a year and a half. I didn't actually finish my degree. I went for elementary education with a minor in psychology, and I started to get that itch at a young age. After about a year and a half of going to college, I quickly realized that it was not for me and that I didn't know what I wanted to do and that I was wasting my money and throwing it away, basically. So I packed up my SUV on a whim and I moved to Arizona. I had a friend that lived down there. They had an open room, so they were like, come live with us. So I was like, all right. So against my parents' advice, I dropped out of college, moved to the desert. And that's kind of where that love for the desert really started from. So I lived there for about 2.5 years. Partied my face off, and I was like, all right, I need to slow down a little bit. So I moved to the mountains of Colorado, and I lived there for about a year and a half, and I actually got a job as a wedding planner. I think I was working at a restaurant at the time, and the current wedding planner quit, so I was like, well, I'm just going to shoot my shot and try this out. So I actually got to be a wedding planner in the mountains of Colorado, which was amazing. It was such a cool experience. And then so I spent about a year there, but the itch was getting bigger. I was like, I got to do more. I need to go do some more things. So I ended up moving all of my stuff back to Minnesota, threw it all in my mom's and my dad's house, just put whatever I could, wherever. And I left for a solo backpacking trip. I went to Central America.
Nice.
I did Costa Rica, Panama, Nicaragua, a few different countries down there. And then after that, I came back to the U.S., and I pretty much just continued traveling to other countries for the next year and a half. I went to Europe, really hit a lot of the islands, like Cayman Islands, Cuba. Where else did I go down there? There's a few islands in the south that I went to. So after all that, I came back home, and I was just like, how can I go back to regular life after this?
Right.
It was really, it was kind of a slap in the face after seeing all that cool stuff. I'm like, I guess I have to try to get a real job now and do something. So I did. I moved to Minneapolis, which is only like an hour away from my hometown. And I got a job as a restaurant manager because throughout my entire backpacking experience, I was like working at random restaurants and bars, just making money to be able to keep traveling. And so I did that whole thing for about a year. I was managing a restaurant, making really good money. I had a really nice studio apartment downtown, but I was still just not, I needed more. So I guess like since I was younger, I've always had this obsession with Volkswagen vans, those like tie-dye, posters you can buy. Oh, I had those everywhere. So I kind of like just started dabbling on Craigslist, looking for different vans. Initially, I was like, I want a Volkswagen Westfalia for sure.
No, not what I want.
Yep,
No.
They come with a price.
Might as well panic if you're going to get one of those. They have so
exactly.
many problems.
Yep. So not only are they expensive to buy, but they're also expensive to maintain, and some people won't even touch them.
Yep.
Which is kind of comical because now I have that problem with my van. So yeah, I was hanging out at home one day. I was just browsing Craigslist and saw the green van, and I was like, that's it. And yeah, the rest is history. Yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. Yeah, it's been a year and a month now since I left it, and I have no intentions of going back to everyday life.
That's awesome. So what kind of van do you live in now?
Okay, so I have a 2006 Dodge Sprinter van. So when I clicked on I kind of like was looking into Sprinters, but I thought that they were just completely out of my price range. And what I didn't realize is that with Sprinter vans, the interesting thing is that, so the Sprinter van is the same regardless of who the make of it is. So there's Dodge Sprinter vans, Mercedes Sprinter vans, and then Freightliner Sprinter vans. And I didn't know that mine was a Dodge until I got it. I thought that Sprinters were just Sprinters, but from what I have heard, the reason that they put the Dodge emblem on them is because it was cheaper to ship it over from Germany to here. So there's a Dodge emblem on the front and on the back, but everything is Mercedes. It's all the exact same van. It just made it cheaper for them to bring it over. But yeah, I live in a dark green Sprinter van, which is still the one and only I've ever seen. And I got.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen dark green. I've seen, all kinds of other Sprinter colors, and I've seen dark green other vans, like a van or something like that, but not your combination. It's very unique.
It is, yeah, and it's stock color too. Like the inside of the metal is all dark green too, so it's not like they painted it. It was actually a carpet cleaning company. I'm actually only technically the second owner of it. So the carpet cleaning company had it from 2006 until when I bought it in 2019.
Whoa!
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I know. So I was like, I knew that it was well taken care of, and I think that because it was an older gentleman who was selling the van, that he didn't understand, I guess, like the value of vans right now and how much they've increasingly been going up. Mm-hmm. Because when I saw it on Craigslist, he was asking $6,000 for it, and I was like, done. That was literally like $10,000 cheaper than any other van with the same gas mileage. So I definitely got it for a great deal, and I even talked the guy down a little bit.
Oh my God, that's incredible.
Right?
That's amazing.
It was definitely kind of a right timing kind of thing. I think that had I not seen that ad that day, I don't know if I would be in a van yet. That was kind of that tipping point where I was like, I can't not take this opportunity.
That's really interesting. So you were like looking around, but you weren't necessarily like serious about, you were just kind of like, if it happens, it happens. That's cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, I had been, pretty inactively looking, but every once in a while I would just like browse on Craigslist, just like seeing what was out there. And I was always looking in like the desert states because I wanted one that didn't have any exposure to humidity or salt, because I was like, well, that way they won't have any rust, which was kind of a joke on my half. Did I tell you about the floor of the van?
Yeah.
The entire floor is rusted out. The entire bed of the van was rust, and I went to 3 different rust specialists, and I was like, what can you do to fix this? And they're like, nope, we're not touching it. I'm like, not anything?
That's probably because it was a carpet cleaner's van. So like he probably had a lot of moisture in the van.
Moisture and chemicals just spilling over and over.
Just by nature of the job that the van had.
Exactly. Yep. But yeah, it's been a year now. Haven't fallen through to the highway yet. So far so good.
That's awesome. Did you have any reservations about it? Like when you got it, was there any part of you that was like, this is dumb, don't do this? Or were you just, I'm in it, I've already backpacked around the world, like I can fucking handle it, this is fine?
No, not really. I mean, as soon as I saw that van and I contacted that guy, I was like, this is it. It's finally going to happen. This is the light at the end of the tunnel. Like, this is my out, basically, to get out of this lifestyle. I don't want to live in the box anymore. The only time I had any kind of reservations was when I did rip up the flooring that they had, and I saw all the rust, and I was like, well, this is the end. I guess I can't live in this van. But finally I went to a rust specialist, and he was kind of the voice of reason, and he was like, you're going to live in this. His son lives in a van.
Yeah.
And he's like, you're going to live in this. I'm like, yes. He's like, you're going to put a subfloor down anyways. I'm like, yes. He's like, cool. Just add another inch to whatever subfloor you were going to do. You're not going to fall through to the floor. So yeah, it was never any like question of whether or not I wanted to do it. It was the van itself that made me a little bit nervous. But after I talked to that guy, he really reassured me. And after that, yeah, no reservations. I was balls to the wall. I put in my 2 weeks at work, bought a plane ticket down to Arizona to pick it up. And then I drove it back up to Minnesota, and I actually built my van out on the streets of downtown Minneapolis. And that's kind of where what you said, how people would be walking by while I was building out my van. And I mean, you don't see people doing that in downtown Minneapolis. And I would have strangers come up like, what are you doing in here? So the first person, I just answered their question. I was polite about it, and I told them what I was doing. But then I got this idea, and I'm like, there's things that I can't do by myself with this van that I need other hands with. And I definitely did have a couple friends up in Minneapolis that would help me, but I started getting this idea that if somebody would ask me about the van, I would answer their questions and then ask them for help afterwards. Like, I'm going to answer your questions, and then I need help putting my plywood down for my bed. And they did. I probably had like 10 to maybe like 15 random strangers just come help me out with my van with different parts of the build that I couldn't do myself.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's such a vanner's community anyway. That's one thing that once you get into the van community and you start going to events and meetups and stuff, like, you all are helping everyone with whatever build they have or whatever projects they're working on. And like, it's such a collaborative environment anyway. So to have experienced that from strangers, non-van, at the beginning of your van experience, I think is incredible. And like,
it was amazing.
Testament to your personality and like your willingness to let people in and ask for help. And my personality is very different. I'm super like secretive. Like, I don't want anybody to know I'm in here. I don't like asking for help. It doesn't make me feel good. But hearing your story, I'm thinking like, well, maybe my next rig, I'll just like build on the side of the road and see who can help me with it.
Well, and people would even come in with no experience of like having no idea what the van life even was. And they would be like, well, what about if instead of this, we did this? And I was like, genius. Yes. Love it. There were definitely a couple things that other people put their inputs into. And I wish I like had their contact information just to like show them what it is now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, totally random people.
I love that. I'm curious about, now that you've been in it for a year, what were your immediate experiences, like the first like month or 2 or 3, and then like your most recent month or 2 or 3? Like, what's changed? What maybe has been, what was a surprise at the beginning? What's a surprise now? How has the experience evolved for you?
Totally. So when I first moved into the van, I really spent the first like 2 months on my own because I had a friend who lived in a van, and he's really the one who was always pushing for me to do this. But he made it, he gave me good advice. He said, don't rush into any group or anything. Like, find your groove first before you try to meet up with other people. And I'm really glad that I did that because since then I've seen other people who just move into the van and they immediately go and like join a group of people, and they just get so burnt out so quickly because they haven't allowed themselves to adjust to living in a van first. And you really have to immerse yourself in it first and get comfortable with it and like find your groove and do this and do that. So yeah, I spent the first few months totally by myself, and I think that was so important. And I think that's why I've lasted. It's kind of like a relationship. You have to take it slow at first. You can't just rush into it and go flaunt it right away. You have to give yourself time to adjust. It's a big lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And then my other thing was that when I first moved into the van, I was constantly going, I'm like, one night here, I'm going to go spend one night here. And I've definitely slowed down a lot since then. Mostly for economical reasons, but also it really allows you to connect with the place. I mean, when you're constantly rushing and always thinking about the next spot that you're going to go to, you're never really enjoying where you are, looking around and exploring. So yeah, I've definitely learned to slow down a little bit. Now, I've pretty much been in a group setting for about 2 weeks now. But it's really nice because when you're with people that respect your privacy and understand that even though you are literally in a group, you don't always need to be interacting, and it's okay if you want to spend the entire day doing your own thing without talking to anybody else in the group. It's a little bit different now. I'm actually at a band meetup right now, so it's going to be pretty social. So I'll definitely need a couple days of downtime and not socializing after this. But yeah, slowing down, I would say, is the biggest thing, and really learning to like take my space when I need it, and be comfortable with telling people like, I enjoy your presence, but I need to go take some time alone now and decompress after all of this, which is something that I wouldn't have done in the beginning of living at the van, just full send all the way, which is why I'm glad I took those months to myself.
I think that's really, really good advice. And I'm going to take that and say it to people who ask me for my advice too. The first year that I was in my van, like I went to a meetup pretty immediately. And but then like the rest of the year, I was pretty much by myself. I traveled alone. I went a lot of places alone. Like every now and then I'd meet up with another vanner because we're pretty obvious when we're on the road. And then you just
Totally.
friends with them and you travel with them for a week and then you go and do your own thing again.
Yep.
And in the first 3 months of 2020, I socialized more than I had the entire year of 2019.
Yep.
Now that we're 8 months in, that hasn't really changed. I've still like socialized, and it's really important to like have my own time and my own space. And some groups are better than others for respecting your own time and space. I think overall, vanners are pretty understanding of it because we all live in a van for a reason.
Definitely. Yeah, we all get it. But yeah, kind of like what we said, I feel like that's definitely like when you first move into it, you're like, this is going on. And it's hard for you to, that can even be applied to not even just van life, but like everyday life. You can get burnt out by doing that all the time and always doing, which was a big flaw of mine, even when I was living in a house. I'm like, oh, that's going on, I'm going to go. That's going on, I'm going to go for sure.
Got that FOMO.
So, totally. Oh, 100%. I'm the worst with FOMO. I'm like, if I hear people laughing outside my van, I'm like peeking out my door, like, what's going on? What's funny?
Why are you laughing? I want to be a part of this.
Totally. And that's why I physically have to remove myself in my van from those settings, because I know that if I'm there and there's fun like happening, I will go be a part of it, even if I am burnt out and just need quiet time.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. Along those same lines, like, what do you think are some of the biggest pros and cons of living in the van for the last year?
Totally. Pros, you're saving $1,000 a month on rent or whatever you're paying for rent. Granted, there's gas and like fixes. Yeah. What'd you say?
I was going to say, unless you're driving to a new Western state every day, and the Western state is massive, so it takes forever to get anywhere and it's very expensive.
Totally. Yeah. And then just the freedom of it, just being able to be like, tomorrow, if I wanted to wake up and go to the Oregon coast, I could. I wouldn't. I don't drive more than 3 hours on any given day.
Yep.
And then the community is just absolutely amazing. That's definitely a huge pro, kind of like what we were saying. I feel like, as an example, yesterday we were at this campsite on the top of a mountain, and it's pretty steep grade getting up there. And this other woman who just moved into her van a few months ago, it was kind of a weird situation because we were on the top of the mountain and it was the end of the road. So people were constantly like coming up, and then like they saw our vans and they're like, oh, we got to leave. But this girl ended up parking, and she kind of walked up like around the group basically just because she wanted to like go look at the view. And while she was trying to go back, she actually got her van stuck bad. She high bottomed on the, it was a really steep curve to like turn around. So she got her spare tire was underneath. Yeah. And it got stuck. And so luckily there was all of us there, and it took us like an hour and a half, and we actually had to have one of our friends drive his van up this hill and use his tow straps and pull her out. But it was an hour and a half of like digging and pushing and trying so hard, and like we didn't even know this woman. Yeah. And we spent an hour and a half getting her out because that's what we do. Anytime you need help, they will come to the rescue, 100%.
The last time we camped together, we all got stuck, and we
did. And we all helped each other, and one of us was not so lucky to get out.
Only one of us needed a tow truck.
Yeah. But we tried. We gave it a valiant effort, and I know that if we could have, we would have. But I know my van, and I knew that there was no hope, and like, we're calling a tow. But that was my first time, so I think I was a little bit more accepting of it, because it was my first time getting a tow truck, and you kind of have to have that initiation. So I was like, this is it. This is my initiation into the van life.
A year in, and now I need a tow.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say I did pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm not mad about it. What'd you say?
I think those are pretty good numbers, pretty good odds.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pros being the community and the helpfulness, and what are the cons, do you think, of living in a van?
The cons, kind of what we talked about, it being hard for me to distance myself when I need to. I've definitely gotten better about it. There's really not that many cons. The pooping situation isn't ideal, but you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
Other than that, yeah, there's really not a whole lot of cans. Go buy a van, live in a van.
If somebody did want to go buy a van and live in a van, but they're like, how the hell do I afford that? Like, I can't just leave my job How do you personally sustain the lifestyle? Do you like have any special hacks to keep your bills low, or what kind of jobs do you take? Do you know how much it costs you to live in the van every month?
Yeah. So I actually just did a month tracker to see how much money I'm spending every month. Yes. Okay. So I still have, I'm a little bit different than some people because I still have student loans. I bought my van with cash, but I put my entire bill on a credit card. So I'm paying about, let's see, maybe like $600 to $700 in student loans and my credit card payment.
Okay.
But without all that, I am only spending about $400 a month for everything. So like gas, groceries. It's been a little bit different lately with COVID, so there's not really like going out to eat or going and grabbing drinks or anything, which is probably a good thing because I haven't worked in like 5 months now. But so before I bought the van, I did save up some money, and that was part of the reason why I put my build on my credit card, was so that I still had that extra cash and didn't get in the habit of just constantly like buying things with my credit card on the road.
Right.
So let's see. Yeah, I saved up some money before I left Minneapolis and moved into the van. And then I think after about 2 months of being on the road, I actually got a job at a wine tasting room in Arizona. So when I was working that job in Colorado as the wedding planner, they actually paid for my level 1 sommelier certification or courses.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a sommelier. So that definitely helped me get the wine tasting job. I was working at this beautiful wine tasting room. It overlooked all of the Red Rocks. It was super pretty.
Oh.
So I did that for about 6 months. Oh my God, it was so nice. Like just looking out there was like, it was ceiling to floor windows on the entire back half of it, just looking at the rocks. Sedona sucked me in. I definitely think I'll spend some time there. And that was the nice thing too, is that they were like, we will hire you back again next year, because I'm upfront when I apply at places. I'm like, for me, this is just seasonal. Like five months is what I can promise you. And that did end up getting cut a little bit short with COVID. I actually got laid off back at the beginning of March.
Okay.
And then, as you've seen, I actually also make malas and sell malas. Super low key, pretty under the table. Mostly just word of mouth. And when I was working at the wine tasting room, I would always wear one of mine. And if people would ask me about it, I would be like, well, I also sell these, which I don't know if that's even allowed or legal. They probably wouldn't have been happy about that, but
you gotta hustle. That's what you gotta do, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm like, these people are here to spend some money. And I would buy all the materials that I would make the malas with. They were all like Sedona native materials. Like they would go find these things, like the rocks and stones in Sedona. So that was definitely a huge selling point, just kind of like catering to the audience and giving them what they wanted.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I haven't worked in about 5 months now, but because I wasn't paying for rent or anything, I was actually able to pocket some money. So that's pretty much what I've been living off of now. And like we talked about, there's no like bars or restaurants or anything right now. So it's a lot easier to make that money go a long way.
Yeah, that certainly helps. I think that COVID has definitely helped in a lot of ways, like, budgetary. You can't really go anywhere or do anything.
Totally.
It's also a hassle, like you got laid off. I mean, you were going to leave anyway, but it got cut short. And I know a lot of us have had, like problems with laundry and showers and, normal, what we consider normal things now are challenging because everything is closed.
Yep, totally. Yeah, I think that was kind of the tipping point for a lot of vanners when COVID first hit and the gyms all shut down. It really kind of weeded out the weak, I guess. I would see people like, we've decided to move back into our parents' house. I'm like, because there's not showers? Is that it? I definitely get it, especially some people who are more prone to getting that and who would have more severe symptoms if they have like weakened immune systems. So I 120% understand why some people went home, and I would never shame them for doing that. In the same time, because of our lifestyle, I feel like I picked the perfect time to be living in a van, because it's so easy to go out in the middle of nowhere and not have to interact with people. Yeah. Go to town once a week for groceries, and like when you're in a group setting, you send one person to go get everything. So I feel like we definitely had it a lot easier than people who are like living in big cities and still having to interact with a ton of people on a daily basis.
It's been really easy to social distance.
Totally, yeah.
I haven't had a running water shower in over a month, so
yeah. I did go to a Planet Fit, and I was kind of wary about it. I'm like, because I saw that some of the showers were reopening.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I want to? It still just feels a little bit off. Like there is still a pandemic going on. Like I don't know. And it was nice. They were definitely limiting the amount of people that were in there. So like, I don't know if you've been in a Planet Fitness, like they're huge.
Yeah.
And I went in there, there was only like 6 other people in the entire gym. So that definitely felt safe, but I know that there are some places. I mean, if I would have gone in there and it was totally packed, I wouldn't have showered. But I went in there, still wore the face mask and everything to go into the shower, and it felt pretty okay. But other than that, I've just been sticking to the solar shower because it just still feels weird. It still feels irresponsible to be going out when I could just hang my shower on the back of my van.
Yep. I also do the solar shower part, and it can be a little bit of a hassle because my hair is so long, but at the same time, like,
it's so hard to rinse.
It's so hard to rinse. I had a friend recently ask me, like, well, we're outside the van and not inside because I have a sink and everything. I'm like, well, I can't get the water above my head in the van because my faucet is not hooked up, and it just makes more sense. And you shower a little less frequently, whatever.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's been a couple weeks now since I washed my hair, and it's about that time. I think the last time was at the lower Stillwater lake that we were at together. Oh, and man. That wasn't even a shower.
No, that was
literally just a dip. Yep, totally. Yeah, and that's something too. Like when you first move into the van and you're showering less frequently, I feel like you feel dirtier. Or you feel dirty very early on and your hair gets greasy early on, but then as your body adjusts to not showering all the time, which you don't need to shower every other day, like even every day. My mother showers twice a day, and I'm like, that is so unnecessary. Yeah. And like my skin has never been healthier, my hair's never been healthier, and it doesn't really get greasy anymore, which is pretty cool.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
My hair definitely has changed, but it does still get greasy, and I kept waiting, like everybody says that if I just stop showering so much my hair will naturally adjust, or like if I don't wear as much deodorant, like I won't smell as much. My body has not gotten that memo. And they're all bodies are different, I guess.
Totally. Yeah, totally. Mine adjusted pretty well. I mean, maybe I smell and I'm just used to my smell at this point, but pretty much everyone that we're surrounding with ourselves with does not mind at all because everyone's in the same boat right now.
Yep, true. What are your future plans for living in the van? Do you have any kind of like deadlines, or do you know what you want to do next, or are you just kind of playing it by ear?
Yeah, still pretty much just flying by the seat of my pants. So when I moved into the van, I told myself that I would do it for 6 months. Mm-hmm. And then obviously it's been a year and a month now, and I have no plans of leaving this lifestyle. Yeah, I have no plans ever. I don't even know where I'm going at the end of this meetup on Sunday. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't have any plans of stopping this lifestyle. I could easily do another couple of years.
That's awesome. I love it. And I'm happy selfishly because that means that we get to keep caravanning.
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, once you get back up here to Montana, yeah, that'll be fun once you're back here. Again, I don't know where I'm going to be or what I'm going to be doing, but I know we'll meet up again.
Oh, yeah. What advice would you give to somebody who is thinking about taking a trip, like either doing the backpacking around Europe thing once it opens up, or moving into a van, but might be like a little anxious about it, a little nervous, a little unsure? What kind of advice would you give to somebody in that situation?
You're never going to be ready. You will never be at the point where you're like, all right, I am mentally prepared, I'm emotionally prepared, I'm going to do this. That point never comes, and the longer you wait, the further away that you get from actually doing the thing. It's scary. It's terrifying, especially, I mean, both of them. When you're on your own, you're completely diving into the unknown, and you have no idea what's going to happen or what to expect. But I can't speak for everyone, but from my personal experience, it's so worth it, because when you can allow yourself to be scared and still do these things, not like the rope swing. Nope, don't do rope swings. But yeah, when you're scared and you still push through that and allow yourself to do these things, especially on your own, I feel like you really just learn so much about yourself, and you allow yourself to be in an environment that you have never been in before. Because I feel like when you're constantly surrounded with things that you know and people that you know, you're never really growing, because you're still in this bubble of your comfort that you're not getting a whole lot of outward influence from, and you're not really projecting yourself as much as you could. So I think, yeah, that's really how I figured out who I was once I left that comfort zone and got out there and made myself uncomfortable. And then I was like, I like this. I don't like this. I like these kinds of people. I'm okay with not being around these kinds of people. I like this hobby. I don't want to do that. And if I don't want to do that, I'm not going to do it just because everybody else is. So yeah, just take that leap. You're never going to be ready. Prepare yourself as much as you can and just go for it. It'll be worth it.
Yeah, I love that. I would say the same thing. Like, if you wait till you're ready, you're never going to do it.
Totally.
Where can people come find you if they want to follow your adventures or maybe buy a mala or something of that effect?
Totally. So I am pretty much only on one form of social media, and that is Instagram. I am at aimless.amber. So I actually do all of my mala sales, and I can do like custom stuff too, all through there. And yeah, I pretty much just make everything as people ask for it, as you have one of my malas.
Yes, I do.
At any given moment, I usually have like 3 malas, stock malas, and I actually do need to find another bead store pretty soon here. But yeah, you can follow my adventures. Ask me for some jewelry. I'll make you some cool stuff.
Sounds good. And I will link to that in the show notes as well. Thank you very much, Amber, for joining us here today on the Deliberate Living podcast. And
absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the listeners, if you got value out of this podcast or any of the other shows, if you would please go ahead and leave a 5-star review wherever it is that you listen to podcasts. That does help a lot in getting it in front of the eyes and the ears of people who need to hear these kinds of stories. So tune in again next week for another episode and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye! We've reached the end of this episode of Deliberate Living. You can find the show notes and everything we referenced over on my website, and be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, on YouTube, or sign up for email updates every time something new is published. I'll see you next time on Deliberate Living, and until then, keep your life on the DL too.